Welcome to the Tamriel Vault fan feature. We are Character Crusade. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And in this episode, we are talking about The Trebbite Monk by Vasgen. All right, guys. Yeah, the Trebbite Monk is kind of an interesting one. I've played through this one a little bit, and I really like it. It's kind of an interesting take on the spell sword or the battle mage, right? Mm-hmm. However, it's quite unique in its play style. So essentially what we're talking about here is, in lore, there is some mention of an order of monks that were Altmer and called the Trebbite Monks, and there isn't a lot written about them, so this actually gives us a lot of fertile ground.
It's kind of your favorite place to be.
Yeah, right. It's vague enough that we can kind of make up some of our own stuff, right? Yeah. And so if you look at this build on Tamriel Vault, you'll find that link in our show notes here. There is going to be some useful information there for you that has to do with kind of some of the TES lore about this that exists, and some cool ways to play it or develop a faction on your own. The build also has some cool Altmeri roleplay ideas and a few quests that you can try out, and the justifications for role-playing each. But the idea really here is that we're talking about an order of monks that are kind of focused on magic and then knife wielding or dagger wielding.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the focal too, not just any sword, but it's pretty specific.
Yeah, it's
which blades to use.
And daggers are very close in weapons.
Yeah. Yep, and very fast. So the focus here really is on speed and dealing large amounts of damage very, very quickly. So with this character build, what you're going to be doing is focusing primarily, actually exclusively, on health. You're going to invest all of your level points in health, nothing else, right?
Now, I haven't had a chance to run through this like you have. So when I'd mentioned to you, that was kind of an interesting selection for a spell wielding character, that you wouldn't invest anything into magicka. Right. And your response was?
My response was that health is what's going to keep you alive, and we're going to make up for our lack of magicka by gaining the right equipment, right? So you're like,
faith.
It makes sense once you play it. So
but it would be so tempting. Oh, maybe just this one.
Yeah, I know, right? Right. Well, this character's designed to be a dual wielder. However, we're wearing no light armor. We're wearing no heavy armor. It's all robes.
It's all robes.
Right?
Right.
So in combat, speed is so important, and dishing huge amounts of damage is really important, because you want to take your opponents down as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Which is especially going to be important with multiple opponents.
Yep. So the skills you're going to invest in on this is you are going to invest a little bit in block, one-handed. You're going to invest in alchemy. There's some very specific potions that are recommended for this that you can use to enhance your magical abilities and your protection, and even some poisons. And then we're going to invest in destruction, restoration, and alteration. Destruction, obviously, for its offensive capabilities, but we're focusing on cloaking spells. So you don't really have to invest a ton here. In this part of the perk tree, you're going to basically augment shock and flames. You're going to try to get kind of your base destruction from novice up to adept. That's really what we're focusing on.
And this just really plays into the fact that you want to deal as much damage as possible, and this is going to help augment your blades.
Absolutely.
And how quickly will you see that change when you're investing that much in the perk tree there?
Well, you're going to see a lot of change very quickly. I mean, augmented shock and flames have 2 levels each, which are just going to further enhance the amount of damage that those destruction spells do. But this is really an up close and personal character. So the beauty of the cloaks are you can cast the cloaking spell, and then you're surrounded with this kind of swirling vortex of flame that is doing damage to anyone who gets close to you in melee combat, which means you're then free to dual wield your daggers once again, and you're dishing out dual dagger damage at the same time that you've got this AoE or proximity spell effect going on of either flames or shock.
Right.
And that not only does that do a lot of damage, but it's very kind of cool looking. It feels like a monkly sort of thing. It feels like a power,
aura of damage surrounding you.
Absolutely. So on the alteration side, we're investing, novice to expert, and we're focusing primarily on some defensive capabilities here with mage armor at 3 levels.
Yep.
The perk spread, as you find it on Tamriel Vault, is it goes up to level 40. Once you get beyond level 40, I guess, you invest however you see fit. That could be in smithing. It could be in enchanting to increase the amount of damage that those daggers do. But when I was playtesting this character, I was playtesting at about level 32 with daggers that were the equivalent of ebony. Okay. And I was taking down Draugr Death Lords at expert level rather quickly this way.
That's really potent.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that's really important here is the gear. So let's talk a little bit about gear.
Yeah, since all you are is wearing robes and things that have no armor, it's got to have something to it.
Yeah. I'd be frightened. Yeah.
I know. The basic build is built around vanilla, but as I was playing this character, I could think of some really interesting ways to enhance it using mods.
Right.
But the basic gear is vanilla Skyrim gear. We're talking about the Archmage boots and robes, which are going to give you some buffs on magicka regeneration, and then also some of the spells will cost less, so you'll get more economy out of your spell casting that way.
Right.
The Archmage's boots are going to give you some protection against shock specifically. And these are all things that obviously, you're going to have to go through a good portion of the
well, yeah, you're going to have to become the Archmage.
Yeah, I guess, the Archmage, because you're going to have the Archmage robes. So you got to go all the way through.
Yeah, so you got to...
Yep.
That's going to be quintessential to get all this stuff.
But it's fantastic. I think that's an ideal quest line for this character.
What I like actually about this is that a lot of these builds actually include second stone options, assuming that you get the ethereal crown. So I particularly like this particular second option. So they've got the Lady Stone as kind of the primary if you don't have that. But if you do, it's saying get the Atronach Stone.
Okay.
What
does that one do for us?
That one's kind of cool. So, what that does is it gives you a magicka buff. So, gives you extra points, 50 extra points magicka, and it increases your spell absorption by 50%. Really? Now, the caveat to that one is that it slows down your magicka regeneration. So,
there is a trade-off.
It is a trade-off, but with your other gear, it's kind of offsets it.
Some of it, right?
Plus the racial.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's racial buffs that so by the time all's said and done,
it might be a wash or close to it.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
and then of course, the Lady Stone is going to give us a regeneration buff on stamina and health, which we're going to need.
Right.
We're going to need a lot of stamina as a dual wielder. So having that 25% bonus on stamina regen is great, but the health regen bonus obviously too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so by the time you're all said and done with the gear that's on this page, when you go and look it up, and your race, that negative magicka is going to just be washed out, and you're going to still end up with 100% magicka regeneration.
Yeah.
So tell me about the weapons that you'd want to go through. Dual wielding, you're talking about. You played with a character up to sort of ebony level.
Well, on their character build, they make a recommendation for 2 very specific daggers, and there are, I think, good reasons for this. However, if you want to just, wield anything, I mean, you could literally use anything. I think as you advance levels and are able to get some of these more deadly weapons, that's obviously better. But ebony daggers are what they recommend obtaining. And then there's a couple of specialized ones here.
Right. There's the Blade of Sacrifice.
Okay.
And then... what's the other one? The keening?
The keening. Yeah, it's a blade of keening, right?
So those are the 2 that, in combination, have really interesting effects. But yeah, ebony will do you pretty well too.
Yeah, absolutely. You get, just the damage output is pretty impressive. Now, one thing to remember, however, is that don't waste your time enchanting any armor gear to fortify one-handed, because blades are not impacted by the fortify one-handed enchant.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, if you're using a dagger, you're not going to benefit in any way by having a ring of wielding or anything like that. So daggers are kind of kind of on their own in that way. Now, I've heard some people say that marksman will actually give you a buff on dagger damage, but I've not been able to confirm that or not. So something to think about. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this a lot, and I didn't even get a chance to kind of explore all the potions and poisons that could go along with this. Like I said, I did a dungeon crawl fighting some Draugr with this build, and I also got out in the open and fought a lot of Forsworn with this character. So one of the things I liked about it was the emphasis on the 2 shouts of Slow Time and Elemental Fury. And as I was playing through it, it was really great because there were some times when I could hit Slow Time and I could run circles around my opponent, slicing them from all sides.
Oh, yeah, and wielding daggers at the same time.
Yeah, it was really kind of impressive.
Like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, it was really impressive. The other thing that was interesting is I did this dungeon crawl. Are you guys aware of it? It's one where it's a fairly short one, but you get into this chamber where there is a Draugr lord who can split himself into 3.
Ooh.
And he attacks you.
Oh, yeah.
Three apparitions of himself attack you, and you have to try to identify the real one and kill it. But he keeps disappearing and reappearing, and he's hitting you with shouts, and all this chaos is going on.
Are you in water in that one? No.
Well, they're standing on platforms that are above water.
Oh, okay. I think I know which one.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, but you'll come across it. But he's teleporting around and all this stuff.
Yep.
And hitting you with these shouts, trying to knock you down. I believe they're unrelenting force shouts that he's hitting you with.
Yeah, most of the Draugr overlords use that one.
Right. What I discovered playing through that was that Whirlwind Sprint was awesome with this character as well.
Oh, okay.
And that just comes from having played this. I was basically able to kick off a Flame Cloak spell, switch to dual daggers, and then hit Whirlwind Sprint, which carried me across the water onto the pedestal right next to my enemy, where I unleashed 2 barrages of attacks on him, combined with my spell effect, and then he would vanish and reappear. And as soon as he reappeared, I was just about ready to hit that, Whirlwind Sprint again.
Right.
And I was really only using 1 level of Whirlwind Sprint. And as I played it through, I kind of thought, you know what? I think 1 level or 1 word is enough.
Sure. Just to close that little gap.
It closes the gap. And sometimes it's just enough that when you close that gap, it gets you right behind your opponent.
Perfect.
And while they're trying to turn around and figure out where you are, you've already unloaded on them a couple of times, and
lightning or fire with your cloak or whatever.
Yep. So, anyway, the final analysis for me is that the Trebbite Monk is actually really amazing. It may sound a little bit intimidating because you're in robes and you're a knife wielder, but this is a monk class focused on Altmeri female characters. And I found it to be extremely exciting to play and really stunning damage output, lots of fun. So I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I think if you're interested in getting more information about this great Tamriel Vault build, you can visit tamrielvault.com. And we're Character Crusade, and we'll see you next time.